Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure I've made a mess.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Sketching with Shaw. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of woodwork. Let's get right into it, shall we?
I don't know if y'all can hear that, but the thunder's rolling outside. It's a nice, calm, chill day to do some wood carving, that's for sure. Before today's video, we're going to be carving a little ghost out of this 1x1x2. And I'm going to be following a tutorial by Doug Linker. His YouTube channel is just Linker. But he has a whole series on nothing but 1x1x2s, making a bunch of different stuff out of little pieces of wood like this. Now I did cut this off of a bigger piece of wood, so my top is a little bit bowed out, but I'm just going to sand that down later. But it's actually going to be my bottom, so this is going to be my top. But I'll sand that down with a piece of sandpaper here in a little bit. But I'm a beginner wood artist. I did this one by myself with no stencils or anything like that. But this is my first ever wood carving. I'm a little bit more familiar with it. Oh, I'm sure y'all probably heard that one. But let's pop up his YouTube tutorial and get right into making this ghost, shall we? So y'all might notice I'm gonna have my thumbs wrapped up. And on this one I got a little bit of extra. I'm actually gonna be using that. It's kind of like a brush. So when I get little flakes or anything like that, I can just use the end of that to just brush it off. Plus, as a beginner wood carver, pushing against the back of the blade and the handle right here really wears your thumb out, and I just ain't got used to it yet. A friend of mine told me that these really help, so I've been using these. But the first thing he actually does in his video before he even starts any wood carving is you're going to want to put you a center line right down the middle, and you can kind of use your finger to keep it in line there instead of having to use a ruler. Do that on every side. And that way, for your top of your ghost, you're going to know where the center's at. And then he said put a line down here about 1/4 inch for the base. Which in the beginning of the video, he said you ain't got to put a base on it. He said you can just do it without a base and then stick a little wooden dowel into the bottom of it and have a little floating ghost, but I'm going to try to do one with a base. I like the way the base looked. And then the first thing he does, well, the first carving step, I guess, is he goes right along this edge. What that's going to do is separate your base from your ghost, which he has a much bigger V-tool than mine, so I'm going to have to do a few passes, but that's alright. Well, as y'all seen, I nicked myself a little bit with the V-tool, so I tossed that to the side. Now we got Frosty the Snowman with us while we're carving our ghost. I'm just going to go in with my regular carving knife, deepen these trenches up a little bit, and I'll be back with y'all here in a second. There we go. Now we got the ridges down a lot deeper than what I could get with the V-tool. I don't know, just me and the V-tool do not get along. Alright, and what he does after that is he goes in and puts these 4 little lines up here. And what these are going to do is it's going to help you get your head shape more in the middle. Then after you got that drawn on, he said what you want to do next is just take all these sharp edges off. And now that we got those edges kind of knocked off, you can see from the top there, we got all those edges knocked off. Now we're going to go about probably 1/4 inch down, so about that far. Then we're just going to start cutting up. Just lobbing some of that extra wood off the top. Start rounding it off. I'm going to have wood chips all over my little drawing desk, but that's fine. But yeah, y'all can see the square at the top helps you keep the roundness centered, if that makes sense. Alright, well, we can see this top of the ghost starting to round off there. And eventually we're going to carve all these edges back until all that's gone and we got a complete rounded off head. Alright, so what he does next is he finds what corner he wants his face to be on. So I'm just going to choose this one. And he marks roughly where the face is going to be at. And then he said roughly about an inch from the top. So the very top right here. A little bit underneath where the face is going to be at. Put two little marks there. Make sure they're roughly the same height. Those look pretty good. And then what these are going to be, these are actually going to be the shoulders. So he carves this extra wood off on the sides. Then you're going to have the shoulders starting here. Then you have your face right here in the middle. So after you know where your face is at and you got your shoulder lines in, you're just going to pretty much come to that shoulder right there. So you see my blades lining up the pencil mark. And we're just going to start heading up. Then come to this side. And do the same thing. Just kind of swoop it up till it gradually mixes in with the curve that you did for the head. See how it kind of swoops into the head right there? Now I'm just going to do that a little bit more on this side. And what we want to do is just kind of work this in to the front and back. So just soften those edges up just a little bit. And then if we look right there, we're starting to get our shoulders. Alright, so after we smooth the shoulders out a little bit, the next step he has us doing is we're just going to flatten out the front and the back. Kinda, you want to do the front to the sidelines here, and then the back you want to do to these sidelines. Meeting up with the roundness you did for the side here. So if you see it's kind of rounding off all the way around now, then you also want to smooth out this bottom right here. But see how the front of it's starting to round off there? See, we still got our hard corner for the bottom, but the actual body of the ghost starting to round off. You're going to want to do that to the back as well. And now if we look at it from the top, we're getting a nice round shape with two little shoulders. And with the body being rounded off, now we're going to completely round off the top of the head there. And just like that, we got our top of our ghost completely rounded off. And already y'all can kind of see it's starting to shape up like a ghost. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to soften up these hard edges on the shoulder a little bit. There we go. Now it kind of looks like it's draping over the edge instead of being such a hard drop off like that side. There you go. There you go. There you can see a lot better. Now we're just going to soften up this side a little bit. And that's just kind of draping off the side. And next what he does is he kind of puts in a little bump right here, kind of like for the nose / face area. So we're just going to go in right here and shave this down a little bit. Now we pretty much got our head shape and where our eyes are going to be. Like he said, once you got that, it kind of gives you a roadmap for where your eyes are going to be placed right there above the nose. What he does next is he goes through and gets rid of all the flat pieces of the wood. So where it come out of the factory flat, like the edges down here, see how these are flat? He just goes in, but he leaves the base, but he goes in up here. See how my pencil mark's still kind of there? And he just cuts this back a little bit until it's like that right there. And now y'all can see it kind of blends in a lot better. See how that side's flat and kind of dull, then this side's kind of shiny. we got those two sides done. And now I'm just going to finish up these two sides and I'll be with you right here in a minute. And now we have all of our edges knocked off. Alright, so now we're actually going to start with the arms now. And we're going to go right here to the top of our shoulder and just kind of come down the front here. So that's where our arm's going to be at. And then we're going to come over here to this side, come to the top of our shoulder, and roughly make it a little symmetrical to the other side. So we see there we got pretty much the same height on both sides. And now we're about to go in with this semicircle tool right here. And we're just going to push it up right through here, and it should give us a nice little soft crevice. There y'all can see, nice little soft indent to show our shoulders and our arm. Now we're just going to come to this side and do the same thing. And there we have our two little indents. We need to actually flip it over and bring this all the way down here on both sides. And just like that, we're starting to get our arms in. Alright, now that we got those two crevices in there to indicate the arms, now what we're going to do is kind of smooth this side so that the arms protrude out a little bit. And there we see that side's kind of done. See how that side still has a hard edge to it? See that one I kind of smoothed out into the head. So now we're going to do that to the other side. Alright, so our next step here is actually going to be putting the bottom of the arms in. So kind of like the sheet is getting pulled up a little bit. Make sure that they're roughly the same height. Now what we're going to do is actually going to put a stop cut, two stop cuts right here and here. And what that is where you're going to shove your blade right along that line right here. Kind of rock it back and forth. And you see it kind of creates a deep cut. You can kind of see the shadow, unlike that side. And now what we're going to do is just going to push our blade up that way. And what's going to happen is, instead of keep going, it's going to hit that and stop right there. Well, that's why it's called a stop cut. And then boom. But I'm actually going to do a little bit deeper, so I'm just going to push my knife in again. And then do the same motion. You might have to do this cut a few times. My blade ended up pushing a little bit too far there, so I had to go back and smooth that down. But now y'all can clearly see that edge right there. Now we're going to do that to that side. And now we see that side also has a little lip on it now. Went back, made them a little bit deeper. Now they're more pronounced. And now we're really starting to get the shape of our ghost in there. And next what we're going to do is we're just going to deepen this trench we got going here a little bit. My base ain't as deep as his is, but I still think it's looking pretty good so far. So the next thing he does is he kind of rounds his bottom off a little bit. There we go. And there from the bottom you can see the edges are kind of rounded off now. Alright, now that we got the base carved in a little bit more, now we can see our ghost is clearly floating above the ground a little bit. What he does next is he uses the half circle tool again, and he's starting to add texture to the ghost. So starting to add the wrinkles and the folds and all that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go in, lightly push down, just start adding little folds here and there. There we see at the front, it's starting to take shape already. Don't forget to add some to the back as well. Also kind of shaping out the back of the arms a little bit. And you don't want to go too ham with it. So you don't want to like boom, put a dent, boom, put a dent, boom, put a dent. You want to space them out a little bit. You want to have some tall, some short. So you see that one on the left is a little bit shorter than the one on the right. Just give it some variation. And that way when you look at it from a distance, it looks like a bunch of folds kind of bunched up together. Alright, so y'all can see as the shadow catches it, we got little dips all the way around the bottom. Alright, next what we're going to do is we're actually going to do the eyes. So I'm actually going to come in, just put a center line kind of roughly down the middle there. And what you're going to want to do is take your half circle tool like this. Well, you want to figure out where you want your eyes to be at. You can either make them the same size or make one a little bit bigger than the other. Really, it's up to you. And like Linker said in his video, he likes his 2 different sizes, and I think that's what I'm going to do with this one as well. But you're going to want to find the top of your eye and then just shove that in there a little bit. And then as you see, it gives you a nice round cut. And then you pick where you want the bottom of your eye to be. So I'm going to say right there. And then once again, just shove that down in there. Now you got the top of your eye and the bottom of your eye. And then what he does, this is the tricky part. You're going to go in with the tip of your blade and just kind of connect these up. It's rough, but it's an eyeball. And then for my other eye, it's going to be a little bit smaller than this one, so I'm just going to go a little bit farther down. Once again, push my eye in there, find the bottom of my eye, push it in there. Now we have 2 different sized eyeballs. And now what you're going to want to do, this is the tricky part, is you're going to want to push your blade in and kind of curve it. And then push your blade in, curve it. I'm snagging for some reason. There we go. And then just continue this all the way till you get to the other side of the eyeball. And then boom, we have 1 carved eye and 1 non-carved eye. Same process for this eye. What you're going to want to do is, well, we got to connect these 2 little sides up real quick. I forgot to do that. And after you get your sides connected, what you're going to want to do is just like before, you're going to want to push your blade in and turn it. Push your blade in and turn it. And just like before, we're just going to go all the way around the eye. And there we have 2 eyeballs. I'm going to clean up the eyes just a little bit, get rid of some of these extra gunk. There we go. Now we see the eye looks a lot better. And with the eyes being done, we pretty much have ourselves a finished little ghost. I'm just going to add a little bit of color to this, and I'll be back with y'all here in a second. Alright, well, I got my color added. I actually didn't use paint, I actually used color and pencil. Y'all can kind of tell at the bottom, you see all the wood still poking through. But overall, I like how it turned out. I used a light gray in all the creases to give it a little bit of shadow. Then I went over the main base with a white, and then went in with an ink pen to actually ink in the eyes and the shadows underneath the blanket. But then I went in with a black coloring pencil to get the super dark shadows and underneath here. Well, this is how my ghost ended up turning out after watching Doug Linker's YouTube tutorial on it. If y'all are into carving and stuff like that, I highly recommend going and watch his channel. Like I said, he has a ton of videos on 1x1s. Well, that pretty much does it for today's video. I like how my little ghost turned out, and like I said, if you like wood carving, I highly recommend going and checking out Doug Linker's videos. Or if you have any art you want to share with me, I'd love to see it over on my Instagram, where I like and share it to my page. But y'all already know, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and I'll see you next week.